In the last few years, several wonderful formative assessment tools have been developed and made available free of charge on the internet. A lot of people look at these tools and see them as great alternatives to expensive clicker systems, and that is definitely one way to think about these tools. One of the better online tools for formative assessment that I have found is Quizalize, and it shares some common features with other online formative assessment tools like Formative or like Quizzes or Kahoot, but it also has some unique strengths and some unique features that you might want to be aware of. And just as a quick summary of what I see as being unique about Quizalize, Quizalize motivates students to do well for the team's sake, but also for themselves individually. So it has a double motivation in the activities that you do in Quizalize. You'll see what I mean once we get into the tool. Now, as you can see on the website homepage, there are actually two portions of the website. There's a teacher's portion where you click here to start, and then there's a student's portion of the website where they click here in order to play the games that you make. Also, before we get started, notice what it says here. There's no setup or downloads to get started. Students can play on any laptop, tablet, or smartphone. As long as they have a way to browse the internet on the device, it should work with Quizalize. Okay, so for teachers, go ahead and click Teachers Start here, and it should take you to a screen where you can sign up for a Quizalize account. If you already have an account, you can just log in here. Also, notice if you have a Google Classroom teacher account, you can sign up that way, and it's just a little bit easier and quicker way to sign up. Give me a second to sign into my account and we'll get started. Now that I'm signed in, I can either grab a quiz made by another teacher just by browsing the marketplace. You can see the different topics that people have made games for down here. Notice that most of them are free, but a few teachers are charging for the games that they've made in Quizalize. Or you can also search here in the upper right. So I'll search for some Spanish quizzes or games and see what's available. Looks like there's several available, many free and many at cost. If there's one I'm interested in, I can click on it. In many cases, you can edit the questions, and then you can give it to your class or assign it to your class. I'm going to go back because while in many cases you'll be able to find games that other teachers have made that will work great for you, in other cases you'll want to make your own. So if you do want to create your own, back here on the main teacher homepage, you can just click Create a Quiz. Put in a title for your quiz. What is the quiz about? Just click there, choose a topic, or type a topic. If you want to, you can upload an icon to represent your game. So I can just upload an image to kind of represent this activity. And then I start by adding questions. Click to add a new question. Question number 1 is going to be, how do you say shirt in Spanish? The correct answer, of course, is la camisa. Put in some incorrect answers. Optionally, you can put in an explanation for why la camisa is the correct answer. In this case, it doesn't really make sense to do that, but you could. And then if you wanted to, you could put a subtopic for this particular question. Notice that you can also use images if you would like. If you click to turn on images, it lets you upload a picture, and you can just select that image and pull it in as the image for your question. Great, so I'm just about done with my first question. Notice for those math teachers out there that you can also go into math mode, which will give you some additional options, and it makes it so that you can enter equations in answers and questions. Also, choose how long this question is going to be available to the students. 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes. How long do you want them to have to answer their question? Okay, great. I'm done with question number 1. I'll click Save. And you don't have to click Save after each question, but it is a good idea to save periodically, just in case. So next, I'll click on Add a New Question and make question number 2. Give me a few seconds to make a couple more questions, and then we'll start up again. Okay, so I've added 3 more questions for a total of 4. Now I need to go down to the bottom and make sure I have saved my quiz, and then I can click Finish. So that is now a completed quiz ready to be played in Quizalize. Now if I ever lose track of this particular quiz, I can just sign into my Quizalize account and click here on Your Quizzes, and it will take me to a list of all of the quizzes that I've made. Then I can select the one that I want to use and click Play and Share. All I have to do next is click Give it to my class There's a few options to choose from. Do I want there to be sounds? If so, there will be sounds on the students' devices that will play. Do I want to randomize the question order or keep all the students on the same track? It's up to you. What about the number of questions? Do I want to ask all of them or just 10 of them? So basically you could create a question bank where there's like 50 questions or 80 questions and only 10 are chosen randomly. So that's kind of a fun option. And that way every time you play this particular game, it would be a little bit different experience for the students. Do you want there to be a timer? Do you want the students to see the correct answer? Do you want them to see the results? Also, you can try mastery mode, which uses an algorithm to repeat certain questions that the students might need to work on, and it does it on an individual basis. Kind of an exciting idea. Once you've made your choices, go on up to the top, click continue, and recently Quizalize has added this feature that utilizes a tool called Zish to conduct their games, and don't let this confuse you too much, but basically just click OK. And at this point it may take you to a page where it'll ask you to either sign up for a Zish account or to sync it to your Google account. Hopefully that's not too difficult to do. If you have questions or need help, notice that there's a question mark down here in the lower right corner, and you can get some assistance about how to do this. But anyway, hopefully it won't be too difficult. And then when you're ready, you have to select the class that this activity is for. Is this for class period number 1, class number 2, or if you teach elementary school, it may just all be class number 1. So next, we need to add some students. And you can either click to type in student names, or as it says here, there is no need to add student names. You can have Quizalize actually add them for you. I'll click OK. Next, you decide if you would like to play this game in class, live as an activity, or would you like to assign it as homework to your students? And if you would like, you can put in a due date, basically, an end day and time by which they have to finish the activity. Okay, I'm just going to do this for play in class, and then I'll click finish, and it loads up a page that gives some instructions and explains to you as the teacher how to get the students signed in to use your activity. Notice what it says. It says to open their tasks, like this activity that I just made, class members simply go to quiz.al and enter this class code. In order to show you the student experience, I've pulled up my smartphone. And you can see up here at the top of the screen that I'm at a website called live.zish.com. But the way I got there was just by opening up Safari, or you could use whatever web browser you want to use on your particular smartphone. And then I just typed in this space this URL, quiz.al, and then I hit enter or go, and it took me automatically to this location, to this page. And so your students will have to do that. They'll have to go to quiz.al. Now they could do this on a smartphone, a tablet, a computer, a laptop, a Chromebook, doesn't matter, as long as they have a browser that they can use to go to quiz.al. Next, the student or students will have to type in the code in the space provided. So I'll just tap there on my cell phone and put in the code that you see here at the left. Next, students just have to tap join my class. Now, as a student, I can select my name from this list. Now, what if I'm not on the list? What if I am new to the class and haven't used this yet? I could just go down at the bottom where it says enter your first and last name, and I could tap and put it in there. But I'll just choose a name here, and it gives me access to the class activity. Now, before we start the activity, I'm going to scoot my smartphone over to the side so that you can see the screen a little bit better. Great. Now all the teacher has to do is click Launch Game Board. So I'll go ahead and do that. And you can see the various players that have joined the game show up on the screen. Anyone that's kind of late getting signed in can still do so. All they have to do is, again, go to this address, type in this code, and put in their name, and they'll appear here in the activity. So as the student, all I have to do is tap Start on my smartphone, and I'm ready to play the game. So the student taps Start, question number 1 appears, and you can see there's the photo that I uploaded. The answer there is La Camisa, so I'll tap that. I got the answer right. It shows my score, how long it took, and then I can just tap Next to go to the next question. Now each time a player gets a question right, his or her team is rewarded because their points go up, but also you see the student progressing toward the finish line. And so that's why I think Quizalize is a really interesting balance of a team game or team activity, in which if I had more people participating in this sample game, you would see multiple names moving across the screen toward the finish line, right? And so it's a team effort. You want as many of your teammates as possible to advance toward the finish line, and as they do, your team's point total goes way up. So that's the team aspect of it, but there's also the individual aspect, which is that as you answer questions correctly, your name progresses. And so you could be the very first person from your team or the first person overall, and that would be recognized. You could see that and kind of brag about it that you finished first, but it also at the same time is helping your team. So I like that balance of individual and team motivation. Now, when you're done with an activity, you can click back and you'll find your activity listed here. If you use this a lot, you'll see a whole list of activities on this page. But you can just click View Results, and you can just quickly see who is strong in this topic and who is almost there, and maybe who is struggling badly, right? In this case, we have John Smith that is strong in this topic of clothing vocabulary, and we have John Doe who is almost there but needs some work. If you want more information, you can click this button in the upper right that says Export. But notice, in order to export your data, you do have to become a premium member. So you'll have to pay for an account. So Quizalize is in a lot of ways similar to Kahoot. It's similar to Socrative and to Quizzes and several other tools that are out there. But I do think it has a unique role to play in the education online formative assessment world because it allows for this team plus individual motivation for the students. And they do tend to really like the game.